What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple new type, and in this episode, we are going back to UC0079 and learning about the Zeon ace pilot that no one knows about. That is right, we are finally going to learn about Johnny Ridden. Our journey starts at the manga Gundam Pilot series of biographies, The Brave Soldiers in the Sky, a series that chronicles 4 Zeon ace pilots. We will also be dipping our toes into Mobile Suit Gundam MSV Battle Chronicle, Johnny Ridden. Let's not waste any time, and let's get into this. The tides of war has shifted. EFF is starting the beginning phases of their new mass-produced gyms. A convoy of 6 of these gyms are leaving Jaburo and heading to Luna 2. As they make their way out, they run into a red and black Zaku high mobility type. This is Johnny Ridden. He is alone and hidden within the debris, waiting for EFF. The captain of the Magellan-class ship has no choice but to launch the new gyms, even though the pilots are test pilots and not wartime pilots. But this is leading into the end of the war. Remember, we get a comment from Kycilia during the Battle of Baoku that they are resorting to using cadets because they are running out of men. We also see this play out in MS Igloo Apocalypse. But let's be real, a test pilot is far better than a cadet. The test pilots go out, but the Zaku is too fast for them. They switch off their computer and pilot manually. It is useless, and Johnny is able to take out the gyms with ease. A Zaku comes in to help, and they take out the Magellan-class ship. Johnny returns to the lunar base Granada. He goes to report to Kycilia Zabi. He thanks Kycilia and her spies for helping him out and destroying the gyms. She asks how many units would he be able to take out by himself. He responds by saying 10 if the Minovsky density is high enough. Kycilia is really into his body and his ability to murder. He heads to his mobile suit and looks at his unicorn logo. This triggers a flashback where his grandfather tells him that a unicorn will bring forth happiness and its heart can only be opened by a woman pure of heart. Not to be confused with Gundam Unicorn, which uses it as a metaphor for hope towards the future. UC0068, the Principality of Zeon, is formed at the hands of Degwin Zavi. In a neighborhood on Side 3, Zeon soldiers are harassing and assaulting citizens over land disputes. A young Johnny Ridden sees this and wants to protect his neighborhood, but a lady tells him to move. Of course he can't help himself and gets involved. As they fight, a young girl comes over and yells at the Zeon soldiers. She says she should feel ashamed of themselves as Zeon soldiers and that government officials should be present during these land seizures. The Zabis have to make stealing as official as possible, I guess. This is a young Kycilia Zabi. She helps Johnny up. Later that night, Johnny and Kycilia dance. She tells Johnny that Zeon has more honorable soldiers willing to lay down their lives, unlike what he saw earlier. In UC0078, at the age of 22, Johnny volunteers for the National Defense Forces. Now it seems that the National Defense Forces are completely different from the Zeon Military Academy that Char attended, but who cares? They will both end up in the same place. But if it was the same academy, then Char and Johnny would have indeed crossed paths. As we know, the 1-year war begins and the Battle of Loon takes place. During this battle, Johnny is able to take out 3 small Salamis-class ships. Rear Admiral Kycilia pulls back and lets Dozel handle business. Back at base, a teammate asks Johnny what his unicorn symbol means. He seems excited about telling him, but then stoically says it represents Her Excellency, Kycilia. He is clearly hiding something. Later in October of UC0079, Johnny Ridden is testing out the new Gelgoog and is loving it. He is now a part of Kycilia Zabi's elite pilot force, the Chimera Corps. Johnny stares at his unicorn symbol on the Gelgoog and zones out again. As he is looking at the unicorn, they get news that Solomon has fallen and General Dozel was killed in action. Kycilia gathers the Chimera Corps. She intends to head to Baoku as she expects that is where EFF is making their push. She plans on heading out, but before she does, Johnny gives Kycilia the unicorn coin that his grandfather made during his flashback. She is comforted knowing that he will be by her side. She attaches it to her gun. After leaving Granada, the solar ray is fired. Degwin Zabi and General Revel are dead. EFF begin their push onto Baoku. On the battlefield, the Chimera Corps has no contact with Kycilia and are kind of winging it as they are being overwhelmed. On Baoku, Kycilia shoots Giran Zabi. As she shoots, the coin that Johnny gave her falls off her rifle. On the battlefield, Johnny's teammate, Mason, is dying. Earlier in the story, Manson jokingly told Johnny that he needed to live so he could propose to his girlfriend. In his dying words, he tells Johnny to go to Kycilia. He takes off and finds his teammate Brooks. He tells Johnny that her ship is having difficulty in taking off. No one seems to be guarding her ship currently. They are using cadets and test pilots on the battlefield, and all hell is breaking loose on the base since Giran's death. A gym comes in and attacks. Brooks goes to hold him off while Johnny goes to find Kycilia. More gyms come in and Johnny takes them out, but he is getting overwhelmed. A Salamis-class ship comes crashing in as Mason, who is still alive, shoots off some of the gyms who are about to kill Johnny. His team is gone. He is the only one left. A Zanzibar ship takes off from Abawaku. Johnny is happy, but he sees more balls and gems approaching him. He gives it his all and sacrifices himself in battle, because, in his mind, Kycelia made it off the base safely. Little did he know that Kycelia was already dead at the hands of Shar Aznable. After Johnny Ridden went MIA at the Battle of Abawaku, he was presumed dead. He was a great pilot and leader, but there wasn't too much personal information about the man. This was all the official information that Zeon had on Johnny Ridden. But what was the truth of Johnny Ridden? We flash back to Johnny at age 22. We were told that he volunteered for the Homeland Defense, but his father actually forced him to sign up. He in fact hated the Zabis and deemed them as nothing more than dictators. But he did what was asked of him and rose in the ranks quite fast because of it. All he really thinks about is escaping war. He is always looking for a way to injure, or even worse, kill himself so he doesn't have to fight anymore. As the new mobile suit program rolls out, he decides to paint his unit red. Everyone on his team sees him as a fearless mobile suit pilot, but in reality, he was just trying to do something reckless and get himself discharged. He is currently a Master Sergeant. The Battle of Loom breaks out. After taking out 3 ships at the Battle of Loom, he is promoted to captain and became known as the Crimson Lightning. His attempts at looking reckless has made him an elite Zeon pilot. Whoops. Until one day he met Char. Officially, the two have not met, because during an event, Johnny came up to Char and says out loud how much he hated the Zabis in public where there were cameras. So officially, that meeting never happened. This is when he was assigned to Granada with Kycelia. Before the final battle, Johnny returns to Side 3, his home colony. He enjoys the peacefulness that you find from a farm on a colony. Johnny runs into Tiki Tornia, an old friend, and tells her that Solomon fell and this war is drawing to a close. All Johnny wants to do is run away. Tiki says he used to preach the ideals of peace amongst the colonies and wonders what happened. He tells her that war is hell, and he recalls Operation British and the colony drop on Australia. He says no matter how much he wants to run, he finds himself fighting when faced with death. As he leaves, he wonders if Tiki even understood anything he was trying to say. We then cut back to the Battle of Abawaku. Johnny is floating in space after his Gelgu was destroyed in battle. It seems that he was destroyed by a mysterious green mobile suit. A Dom comes and picks him up and takes him to the Dolos. The Dolos-class ship is a space carrier and the biggest ship during the 1-year war, even bigger than any EFF battleships. It has 7 launch catapults and carries a wide array of mobile suits, mobile armors, and much more. However, it surprisingly doesn't have too much armaments and requires its own mobile suits to help out in terms of defense. It has a twin megaparticle gun and a twin anti-aircraft gun, and that's it. If you watch the 3rd Mobile Suit Gundam compilation movie, they for some reason decided to reanimate the Dolos ship at the final battle of Abawaku. It looks amazing, but interesting choice. Why the Dolos? While on board the Dolos, he happens to run into Tiki. She never told Johnny that she became an operator, and we are at the point where Zeon is getting desperate and resorting to using anyone. In the hangar, one technician tells Johnny that they happen to have one mobile suit to use for him. They go to the hangar. Johnny believes that it is a regular R2 unit, but in fact it is the full bullet Zaku. The MS-06R2 Zaku 2 high mobility type full bullet Zaku is a high mobility type variant. At the end of the war, Zeon messed up and didn't invest in beam technology. Many of Zeon's mobile suits use shell weapons, so their solution to the lack of beam technology was simply more shell power, much more. This unit was designed for an all-out ballistic attack. The name Full Bullet is a play on the Armor Gundam, which will make its appearance soon. It has a Heat Hawk, triple machine gun, chest Vulcans, a Crusher cannon, and an improved rocket launcher. One thing to note also is that the official report says that Johnny loved the Gelgoog. In this moment, he mentions that he in fact hates it and thinks of it as a piece of junk. He much more preferred the high mobility type Zaku. Johnny launches and instantly runs into a mysterious green mobile suit known as the Full Armor Gundam. The FA-78-1 Full Armor Gundam is a variant of the RX-78-2 Gundam. During the war, EFF created the Federal Suit Weapons System Plan, or FSWS plan. This was a heavy weapons plan designed to evolve from the original Operation V. From this would come a few new mobile suits, like the Full Armor Gundam and the Heavy Gundam. This unit would feature an advanced firepower as well as a propulsion upgrade that were intended to be added to the RX-78-2. All the extra modular add-ons would make the mobile suit as powerful as a battleship. This and many of the mobile suits from the FSWS plan will be swept under the rug and never officially launched. Full Armor Gundam has a 60mm Vulcan gun, a 360mm rocket cannon, missile bay, twin beam rifle, beam saber, and a shield. This unit is also equipped with a core block system. We will also see E.O. Fleming and Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt pilot this unit. Johnny and the Full Armor Gundam engage in battle. Lots of firepower is being exchanged here. During this time, Tiki launches on an escape pod, fleeing from the battle. Johnny goes in and attacks the Gundam. He is stopped, and a giant cloud of smoke and space arises? The full bullet comes out of the smoke and attacks the Gundam. It is now missing a left arm. The fight continues. The two get close to one another. Johnny's full bullet has a blade on its head fin thingy. He does a headbutt right into the Gundam's face and splits it in half, causing a giant explosion. Tiki assumes that Johnny was killed in battle. However, Johnny is quite alive, and he is annoyed as he drifts out into space. Universal Century 0082. In Australia, people began rebuilding after the war. Mobile suits were a necessity for rebuilding, but the majority of suits left behind were Zeon, so people of Australia relied on Zeon remnants left on Earth to help them rebuild. Right now, Australia is currently the Wild West as the people try to rebuild towns and re-establish a new society. A man is helping out in a small town. A lady named Jill is wondering why he isn't bidding higher than his compatriots. It seems he just wants to help. She asks for his name. The man looks over and sees a downed Dop. His name is Johnny Depp. No, Depp. His name is Johnny Depp. Johnny is helping out a town with its farming needs using what he is calling the Land Zaku. This is a Zaku 1 modified with a drill and other accessories needed for farming, building, and moving things. Over the past 2 years, he has been helping out. Many of the children seem to have taken a liking to him. One child asks him about space. He tells the kid at the Battle of Abawaku he was picked up by an EFF ship and used this opportunity to run away and start over on Earth. Jill asks him if he ever heard of a man named Johnny Ridden. At that moment, a man on horseback comes in. This is Shin Matsunaga, also known as the White Wolf of Solomon. Just like Johnny Ridden, his character was introduced in Gundam Pilot series of Biographies, The Brave Soldiers in the Sky. If you would like me to do a video on the White Wolf, let me know down in the comments. They go and have a drink. He insists that he is not this Johnny Ridden guy, but he referred to Shin as the White Wolf, giving himself away. Johnny also responded when Shin called him Crimson. Shin says he wants Johnny to help him fight the ghosts of the Principality of Zeon. There is a force out there that is a threat to the colonies, and people like Shin and Johnny are the only kind that can fight it. Suddenly, an unknown mobile suit comes towards their location. It is 3 Doms. The mayor of the town wants Johnny to go out in the Land Zaku. They happen to have one bazooka round, so they tell Johnny to use it wisely. Johnny really doesn't want to fight, but it looks like he has to go out and help the town. This group comes in proclaiming to be the new Principality of Zeon, and that the Zeon remnants of Earth are looking for support for their new government. However, they happen to be looking for support by force. Everyone thinks they are mad, and the mayor says that the best they could do is give them a little bit of wheat. A Dom pilot gets out of his mobile suit and fires on the town, shooting the mayor in the process. Another soldier fires his bazooka on Johnny Ridden, who is trying to flank the Doms. It destroys Johnny's bazooka and knocks over the Land Zaku. They say they will be back tomorrow, and they take off. Johnny is looking off into the distance at the crater where Sydney once was. Jill asks him about his past. It was insinuated in our last video that Johnny was really affected by seeing Operation British happen with his own eyes. Him coming to Australia to help, along with him pouring his heart out about seeing the crater with his own eyes, solidifies how much it truly affected him. He says he had to see it with his own eyes because when he saw the impact from space, he thought this was all a dream. It seems the entire town is packing their bags and setting up shop somewhere else. Johnny tells her to leave, but she instead decides to pull a gun on him. She asks again if his name is actually Johnny Ridden. She says that her brother was killed by a man named Johnny Ridden. He says that revenge won't help in any way, and ultimately, she understands that herself. We get a flashback of her past. Her parents were killed during the colony drop, and her brother signed up to join EFF. Remember, we were first introduced to Johnny on a mission to destroy some experimental gems on their way to Luna 2. Fighting to protect the ship was Jill's brother. He sent her letters about fighting a Crimson Zaku, and one day the letters stopped. He said in a letter if she ever meets a man named Johnny Ridden, and then she stops and doesn't finish his letter. She says it doesn't matter. At this moment, the 3 Doms come into the city. Johnny goes out and takes a bunch of paint cans and splatters the Land Zaku with red paint. The Doms go in to attack him. He is able to dodge all the DOMs with ease. He is starting to get his groove back. The DOMs attack in linear formation. Johnny goes in and attacks the DOM in front with his drills. Johnny calls the 3 pilots wannabe black TriStars. He goes in and uses his drill to destroy one DOM's head and goes straight through the DOM behind him, killing the remaining 2. The remaining townfolks cheers him on. In the distance, he sees Shin on his horse watching him. Johnny knows what he has to do. He says goodbye to the townfolk and takes off. Before leaving, Jill says that his brother's message was, "I'll kill you." She was joking. Her brother's real message was that his dream was to create a new world in which we could share each other's dream. Johnny says he will pass the message on to this Johnny Ridden guy. He says his farewells. We start the final chapter with Shin as the narrator, being asked to talk about Johnny Ridden. He is speaking from a future point in time where Johnny Ridden is dead. He says he doesn't want to speak ill of the dead, but he is a coward. Johnny asks Shin to kill him after the mission is over, and Shin agrees. Later, Shin and Johnny fight after calling the zombies a bunch of fascists. They stop their fighting once they reach a random ship that they refer to as the Ghost of Zeon. Both Shin and Johnny break into the ship in their Zaku 2 high mobility types. They are looking for something called Plan C. We flash back to Shin telling Johnny of the plan. The next generation of mobile suit development still lacked beam technology integration. This was considered Plan B. Plan C would finally change that. A man named Dr. Q was assigned to create the new mobile suits, but once the project was shelved, the doctor went rogue and continued the project. He no longer is an asset to the Republic of Zeon. He is too vengeful. In the present, they find a mobile suit mass production line. They notice that there is a lot of waste in the production. Shin tells Johnny that Dr. Q's method was to take the top 10% and make mobile suits from that. The rest is trash. Suddenly, an explosion happens behind them. It is Dr. Q in a mobile suit that is too fast. Shin and Johnny are with a red shirt and a Gelgu, who gets wrecked by Dr. Q. Dr. Q is piloting the Perfect Zaku. The Perfect Zaku uses a magnetic field to surround itself with a fog to disguise its appearance. Johnny notes that this may be made with Luna titanium or even something stronger. This is strong even without the need for the fog, but it makes this unit almost impenetrable until getting through the magnetic field. Its back module has a large mega cannon and a 5-wired Psychoma system. It also has a double beam scatter cannon and heat hawk shield, as well as a triple beam cannon. Although an amazing mobile suit, it was deemed too expensive and Plan C was eventually shut down. Dr. Q yells about restoring Zeon back to a principality and scoffs at the concept of them being a republic again. The mobile suit uses the Psychomu system. Johnny and Shin barely escape the attack. The Zaku breaks through the ship and takes off, heading in the direction of Side 3. The team goes back to their ship and regroups. As Dr. Q makes his escape, he runs into an EFF fleet containing the Heavy Gundam. The FA-78-2 Heavy Gundam was deemed a failure, and EFF decided to continue investing in the FSWS program. For more information on this program, see the previous Johnny Ridden video. Unlike the Full Armor Gundam, which was built modularly, this unit was built from the ground up to be a heavy weapons Gundam. The core block system is removed to add even more armor. The Heavy Gundam is armed with a shoulder-mounted beam cannon connected directly to the generator, with a beam saber mounted behind the opposite shoulder for use in close combat situations. The Gundam and Perfect Zaku engage in battle. Back on the ship, Johnny wonders if they have access to the Gelgoog's beam rifle and generator pack. He explains that shell weapons will have no effect on the Zaku's magnetic field. They have to fire a bazooka attack which will make the shield go out. They then can fire the beam weapon. Why? Reasons. Back on the battlefield, the Perfect Zaku tears through the Heavy Gundam. Dr. Q's first experience with EFF's Gundam leaves him thinking that they are all weak. After destroying the Gundam, this is when Dr. Q dubs the name of the mobile suit, the Perfect Zaku. Since the program doesn't exist anymore, there never really was a name given to the unit. Johnny makes it to the battlefield and attacks the Zaku. Dr. Q is confused why a Zeon pilot is fighting him. He tells Johnny to join him in creating a new Zeon. We flash back to Johnny and Shin fighting. Johnny asks Shin what does Zeon mean to him. Johnny says that he could care less about Zeon, and that he is only fighting to protect those that he loves. Of course, he is thinking of Tiki. Shin tells him that he never had what it takes to be a soldier. Johnny says of course he never had it in him. Back on the battlefield, Shin comes in, rocking the bazooka. He tells Johnny he better not miss and fires. The magnetic field goes down and we get our first good look at the perfect Zaku. Johnny goes in and fires all 3 shots of the beam rifle right in the cockpit, destroying the perfect Zaku. The Zaku is destroyed and the mission is complete. Johnny tells Shin to fulfill his end of the bargain. He asks Johnny to reconsider, but he is firm. Shin says farewell and shoots Johnny. Shin returns to the ship and tells the crew that he killed him. Shin's narration picks up once again and says that dead men tell no tales. We then cut to side 3, where we see a very much alive Johnny Ridden. He goes to the farm to find Tiki, and the two embrace. And that will do it for our introduction to the character Johnny Ridden as we conclude this MSV Battle Chronicle. But don't worry, this isn't the last time we will see Johnny. We will eventually continue our adventure and push forward to UC90 as we cover MSVR, The Return of Johnny Ridden. But right now, we are currently in the year UC87 in our coverage, so it might be some time. Even though it flashes back between the 1-year war and UC90, it still feels like we have to cover it when we talk about UC90. Or maybe not, you tell me, leave a comment, let me know. But that will do it for now, new types. Remember, sometimes it is okay to be selfish and fight for yourself, just like Johnny Ridden. Peace.